Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope everyone's having a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, sleep time right now, since everyone's located all over the place. Today, I'm doing it. No, I'm 2 weeks late since my last video. I definitely said I was going to try to do weekly videos, and here I am finally making one 2 weeks later. It's pretty gnarly, not going to lie to you. Tried making one the other day, and I don't know what I did, but I botched it somehow. But anyways, so today we're going to be talking about officer assignment. There's an old video of this already. However, some of the officers have changed. There's new ones and such, so we'll kind of get back into that. So yeah. Anyhow, so for officer assignment, as everybody knows, first of all, you have 5 different types of officers. You have deployment officers, you got military officers, defense, logistical, and technology officers. So they all play a very different part in aspects of the game and how they actually affect your stats and things you're capable of doing. So, how to best go about actually showing this? First of all, if you go in here and you look at your officers, I'm going to take a look at all of them that are available for, there we go, for just this department. You can click on them, see everything that they do, figure out which ones you actually want to use. So for here in the technology side, you're wanting to find the ones that help with building time reduction and also research time reduction. Research time reduction. Some of the officers obviously have the exact same effect. So if we're looking at Eric here, he's got research technology speed up time, and at the same time, so does Boxer. They both have the same exact thing. So if you have them assigned at the same time, those two skills will not stack on each other, and that is true of any department where officers have the same attributes or skill, whatever you want to call it. They will not stack on top of each other. So to have them both assigned at the same time will not give you a double effect of that skill. It would just use whichever one is higher. So there's that, and every single department has officers with the same skills. Some of them cross over with each other in multiple areas, like you have your resource protection, which Eric also does. And at the same time, I want to say it's this one. Nope, wrong one. It's Jeepers. Here we go. Found it. 3rd time's a charm. You know that. That one's got resource protection on it too. This one's also construction master. So if you use him with Gingerbread Man, the construction master will go away. And since he also has resource protection, the ambassador, just like, gosh darn it, just like this guy does, you wouldn't be getting that double effect. So all in all, you have to watch who you're assigning together to make sure you're actually getting the things that you want. So there's things to look at for your development side, meaning things to help out with your base, and there's things to look at to help out with your attack and stuff as well, which is where some of these other officers come into play. So like Silent Night, for instance, she's just like Wendy. She'll increase your rally capacity, but then at the same time, she'll increase the stats of your commandos when you're fighting if you have her assigned. So you want to have officers set up for both things. So if we look at mine, come over here, go to technology, we'll see that here lined up together for my normal setup, we've got Eric, Boxer, Dr. Comedian, I think is his name, or Dr. S, yeah, and then Silent Night. The reason why I have Eric and Boxer in there at the same time isn't for the research side of it, because obviously, like we just went over, they don't stack up on top of each other. It's because both of them are maxed out in their talents, which is a huge thing to look at when you're doing this as well, because you want to have officers that have a high talent level, because this helps out immensely with hidden stats, if you want to call it that. So, because these do stack, they will go on top of each other. So if you have officers who have this done, and you have multiple officers that have this done, they will stack up on top of each other and multiply. Not like multiply, but add to itself. So if we have a research speed here, 52.5%, with Boxer also having that, it's basically 105%. And then since my other two officers are also maxed out on their talents, it's actually a 210% increase. And that's true for each of these things. So free time is actually multiplied by 4 because I have 4 officers that have this. So it's 168 minutes instead of 42. So it's little things here and there that help out all in all. So you got to make sure you have them assigned to the proper thing. Obviously, technology officers, you want their talent to be technology master. Military is going to be military master. Defense is defense master, and logistics is a logistical master. Attack officers, it's kind of hit and miss. You pick which troop type you want it to be. Let's see if I have one that I don't have picked yet. I want to say I do, but I'm not positive. No. There's got to be one in here. I know there is. Give me just a minute. Yeah, this one. So you have your vehicle weakening, commando weakening, copter weakening, and artillery weakening. I personally have never had an officer set for artillery weakening because, well, when you're attacking someone, let's face it, the artillery that they have in their base isn't really going to affect your attacking troops very much, because artillery is mainly made for fending off somebody's traps. So if you're attacking someone, you would send some artillery if you wanted to help kill those traps off. But since you're not worried about their artillery, it's kind of pointless, in my opinion, to do something like artillery weakening, because, well, it's their vehicles, commandos, and copters that are going to do the main majority of damage to your troops, not their artillery. So I always have these 3 involved, and then for the 4th officer, it's just one of the same because it's still a talent. So yes, they do stack on top of each other. So if you were to have 4 officers all with the same talent, you would then, once again, of course, get that multiplication as well. So if we look at that, then we're looking at roughly, on average, we'd say 24%, 22% maybe would be the, 22% would be the average between all 3 of these, since this one's only 10, this one's 21, and this one is 31. So, but just going through and looking at what those do, if you imagine having 4 officers with the exact same talent, that could definitely be kind of brutal to that one troop type. I don't like going and weakening just one troop type when I'm attacking, so it's hit and miss. You can do this a lot of different ways, but I'm getting off topic here, so we're going to leave that alone, okay? For assignment, like I was saying with mine, I just had to clarify, of course, that... Anyways, I had to explain why I had these 2 in here because of the talents and stuff. So now we're off that awesome rabbit trail as usual. We're going to get back on topic here. Sorry, guys. And ladies. So we've got this set up for my regular everyday stuff, just because of the things that they do with their talents. Just because technology officers and their talents do help out with a lot of different things. Your corp help time is huge, so that's why I like having them assigned during the week, because when you're doing stuff during the week, you're getting that extra help time from all of your officers when someone is helping you out. It is also very handy for when you're doing research, obviously. I wish they had something in there that would help out with building, but they don't. They focus all on research, which is fine. Research is definitely harder than building and costs a lot more. So I understand why they did that. The second thing that you have to look at when you're assigning your officers in these departments is your extra buffs for when you're trying to fight someone. So like if you guys are fighting on your field 24/7, somebody's always fighting, you're not really gonna want to go with this type of setup unless you are in a bubble all the time and you're not the one who's getting hit and you're not actively hitting people. But for those of you who would be active in hitting people, you would want to change out to these officers, mainly because they all have skills that help you when you're fighting. Even though they're in technology department, they help you when you're fighting. So let's just take a look at a couple of these real quick, just so I can show. So this one here gives out a 75% buff to all of your statistics. And then once you have plain cores opened up, you get an additional buff on top of that. Silent Night, we already went over hers. Roderick is really good if you're going to be doing rallies. That's what he's set up for. So, I mean, you can definitely help out with that. If you are reinforcing someone, I would recommend using Roderick instead of Silent Night, just because he would increase the stats of your troops by 60% while you're defending someone, because that counts as a joint defense. Forest Guardian, she helps out with when you're having your precision tech done. If you don't have any of your precision tech done at 100%, I would not have her assigned, because you will get nothing from her. So in that instance, it would be better to have Roderick, even though he's mainly for joint defense. If you're going to reinforce someone, he would be the one to pick. Otherwise, if you're not reinforcing someone, then leave one of your regular development officers in there instead of him. Looking over at logistics here, this is huge for helping with your resource production, your resource protection, things like that. So you can see here where, and also healing cost and healing time. That's also in here. So with that looked at, you can see the stats here on what it's helping out with my production, and then you can also see what it's helping out with collection. Looking at their talents for logistics, we'd be seeing that your efficiency for all of your resources is boosted. Your gathering speed is boosted. Your healing speed is boosted. Hospital expansion, building time, things like that. The cost of your resources when you're doing healing. So if you are fighting over the weekend and you have a lot of healing to do, or you're worried that you're going to have a lot of troops to heal, and you don't have the officers that actually on their own buff your hospital capacity, because where is he at? Lost him. Forest Elder. He helps out with increasing your wounded capacity. But if you don't have him, I would strongly recommend to assign officers that have the higher level of talents, because then you're going to maximize your wounded capacity while you're fighting. So just a little way to kind of balance things out here. Otherwise, when you're fighting during the week, it would be good to have Cupid and Forest Elder in there, because Cupid increases stats for attacking and such. And obviously Forest Elder helps with your wounded capacity plus your first attack of the day. He does make all of your lost troops wounded instead of dead, so there's that as well. I always have Bunny Girl and Amateur Sue assigned, just because I'm trying to work on my spray production. Obviously, as things change and I get that finished up, or I get different officers in here, that's something I would definitely change out. Obviously, Angel Alyssa would be amazing to have during the weekend, because then on top of Forest Elder's 60,000 troops, you would have a 40% extension in your hospital as well, so that's huge. Plus, she helps out with your dead to wounded ratio, and weakens the debuffs that are on your troops. So if someone has weakening stuff, she'll take a good chunk of that off. Not all of it, Anyways, so her, Cupid, and Forest Elder would be the 3 that you would want to have assigned when you're fighting, just because they would go very well together. If you're looking at training troops, the Time Traveler is a must-have. Absolutely 100% must-have, because, well, not so much of the marching speed. You don't really care about that. And you also don't care about your unit gathering load. I mean, it would mean that you can have less troops gathering on a tile. So if you're worried about someone hitting you, you're going to have less troops out there. But what you really want to focus on is this right here. Because if you use this every week when the utilization rate of resources is on troop training, you get that 50% off plus this. So it makes it way, way, way cheaper to train troops. So somewhere you want to have that as well. Rock Howard is good to have. You want to switch him out every day just because, well, he would give you a large amount of extra metal, batteries, and plastic while you're gathering throughout the day for the first 3 times you're on that tile. So it's not just your first 3 marches being either of these, it's 3 marches for each of these. So it really does help out. I haven't used him today yet, but I do use him every day. So back with what I have assigned here, I've got my weekend set up, which eventually Angel Alyssa would be here in place of Amateur Sue. And then, geez, I need to get rid of that. And then for training day, I have Time Traveler in here. And then this is my day-to-day setup right here, just to increase my production in collection cost. And then I change out Amateur Sue for Rock Howard. For military, same thing. You want to look at your talents, see what they do. These officers here all help out with troop training. Spencer and Brian both increase the march size of your troops, so of your deployment capacity, I should say, so you can send out more troops when you have either him or Brian assigned. So that's always a good thing to have when you're attacking. Soldier X over here will give you more copters and commandos when you're training troops, and then he also helps with your command buffs, which would be in your departments. I don't really need to go through all this stuff. Sorry, I'm tedious with this stuff, so I apologize if I'm boring anyone. It's not what I want to look at. This is what I wanted to do. Switch this out during your weekend when you're fighting people. Buddy Bunny, Lapine, and Tina. She doesn't per se help out with attacking and such, but her special command there does. And what that is it increased the effects of your combat leaders, guardians, and sergeant majors. So when we go in and look at your command, when we look at combat leader, guardians, and sergeant majors, we can see the stats that are here. So this is with her assigned. So if you were to unassign her, you would have a much lower percentage. So it is definitely helpful to have her assigned at all times until you have a better officer to put in that department. So if we look at the military side of this, if I can find this darn thing I'm trying to get to, here we go. If we look at this here on what officers can all be assigned here, if you're fortunate enough and are on an older field, obviously Hydern would be the officer you would want to replace her with because, well, he gives a 360% bump to all of your stats. So that's going to outweigh the percentage that she's boosting your command. Zach wouldn't be bad in there, but just like Hydern, he's an AMS officer, very hard to get. But he would also be a good swap if you have him and not Hydern. Other than that, yeah, the best you could do for attacking buffs would be Buddy Lapine, Hydern, Zach, and Lena. They would be the best ones. Johnson's just here to help out with your defense facilities, which I don't put a very high value on. because unless you have a lot of defense facilities, it's not going to really matter. And depending on who hits you anyways, it's not going to matter. So I personally don't ever have him assigned. I have him, yes, but I don't ever have him assigned. I want to say it's Lapine that is, yeah, only helps out when you're doing a joint defense. So if you are reinforced or if you are reinforcing someone else, you'd get a 200% buff. So it's good to have him in there if you're going to be attacking, just because while you're attacking, you are opened up for attacks and such. So you want to make sure you have his skills available to you if someone does attack you for that extra buff. Aside from that, I want to say that would cover everything for assignment. I can't think of much else in there. What are we missing here? Did we miss anything in here? Wow. This is what happens when you go on a rant and then you don't check up for anything at all. No music. Yeah, let's listen to Katy Perry. Yeah, that sounds real good. Katy Perry and Taylor Swift. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah, that'd be. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Miley Cyrus. Gosh darn it. No. I'm not doing pour some sugar on me. We'd all get sticky if we did that. Come on, princess. Alright, and that's all. They're past it. Oh, jeez. No, we're not going to do no music here. I'm trying to become more interactive with the chat as well. Obviously, I just did this entire speech without any interaction at all. We're 22 minutes in at this point. This is crazy. All right, so I botched that part of what I wanted to improve on. Perfect. So yeah, all right. That would be it for assignment. The only other thing that you could do to help out with stats with assigned officers would be your department rating. If you're going to do this, it's definitely not set up for people who are free to play, as getting this from, what does it start at? I want to say it starts at, H. Yeah, so getting from H just to B, I think is where this one unlocks. Yeah, to go from H to B, it's roughly $250, $400 for each department, based on when you choose to buy the reputation and when you use to use the reputation. So if you don't match those two things up, yeah, it's definitely a spendy venture. I don't recommend it. At the same time, if you have the money available, I do recommend it, just because, for every department other than defense, which I think is dumb, because defense, you should definitely have a fifth officer, since you can have a fifth officer in every other department. But anyways, that's a different story. We're not going to talk about that because it angers me. You can get a fifth slot, so you can have a fifth officer assigned to technology, military, and logistics, which obviously with some of the stats that these officers have, having that extra officer in there who has a max talent also would be 5 officers with max talents. You could actually accomplish so much more by having that fifth officer in there. But as I stated, unless it's all bought and used at the right time, it would be a rather spendy venture. So it's not recommended. I haven't done it yet. Notice I said yet. Oh gosh, my wording. Always know what I'm up to. So yeah, that's kind of all I can think of to go through. With defense officers, defense officers are so rough because they don't really give out very many good ones for free to play. I mean, yeah, sure, they give out Captain Glory, and they give out... Now, Fluffy Bear's not free. They give him out almost like he was free, because you can get so many of them for such a low cost. But he's not free. I want to say reindeers are available in some events and such like that. And Clint, I can't remember if he's free or not. Lubu, I know you can get in events. Ranking them up It's always the rough part, ranking them up and getting the talents up. That's always what takes the longest amount of time. So if you wanted to keep it simple, if you were to get Captain Glory in there, because he increases the stats of all of your troops, and then if you went with May, because she helps out with your copters, Max because he helps out with vehicles, and Robinson because he helps out with commandos, you would technically be looking at a 460, 420, 420% buff to all of your troops if you were to just go with those 4 officers: Captain Glory, May, Sergeant Max, and Robinson. Nelson's just helps out with artillery, and like we said, even though you're the one defending, it's just, I can't do it. I can't do anything that helps artillery myself. I just can't do it, so I don't. So if you're looking at 100% free to play, those would be the ones to use. If you end up getting Reindeer X, is it Reindeer X? Yeah, Reindeer X, because regular Reindeer, he's not terrible, but Reindeer X would help you a lot more, especially on the fighting side, or on the deep weekend side, just because he does help out all of the stats of your units, and if you're on a different field, his effect is doubled up. So you'd be looking at a much higher percentage for your officers. As far as for who you would replace him for, that's up to you. I would pick the officer that you have the least amount of troop types for. So let's say you have, let's just say you have 200,000 troops in your base. You've got 40,000 tanks, 50,000 copters, and 90,000 commandos for whatever reason, because everyone likes using commandos. Since you have less vehicles than anything else, I would swap Reindeer X out for Sergeant Max, just so that way you still have everything maxed out. The troops you have the most of are still going to have the most power behind them. The ones you have least of, they'll technically be weaker, yes, but that's fine because it's the ones you have the least of. So you already know they're going to end up dying anyways. That's one take on it. There's another take on it that since they're the ones you have the least of, you should strengthen them so that way they don't die off as fast. But then the ones you have the most of, they're not as powerful as they should be. So you can look at it either way. There's 2 sides of every table out there. So, but that's just my opinion on how to go about that. Lubu is decent. The only thing I don't like about him is that he doesn't do anything for helping all of your troops aside from the hit points, but otherwise it's your defense of copters and artillery, or the attack of copters and artillery, and defense of vehicles and commandos. But there's no consistent all-around buff other than hit points. So he technically would still be better than having one of the other 3, May, Robinson, or Sergeant Max in there, just because he would be helping the hit points of all of your troops and then different aspects of all 4 troops. So it still would be beneficial for it, but at the same time, his defense, his hit points stat is lower than the stats you would already get. So it's a toss-up. A lot of people like using him. I personally still wouldn't, because altogether his top 2 stats are 240%, and you're already getting 240% for each of your troop types. So personally, I wouldn't use him, because you're better off just using the basic B officers, because their stats combined would be better than having Lubu. Just my opinion. You can mix and match officers with this. There's so many different ones. And right now, this isn't what I'm supposed to be talking about. So, yeah. As far as for officer assignment, that's the logistics of how it works, kind of help with knowing or picking who to use based on what their skill is, who it would actually match with. I think I've gone on long enough with this. I'm going to end up going in circles here. So we'll just leave it at that, and hopefully some part of this somewhere was beneficial to somebody somewhere. Because my rabbit trails get me so mixed up sometimes. So I do apologize I can't ever stay focused. But something you learn about me, all my future videos, I won't be focused either because it just isn't how I work. Anyhow, that being said, once again, I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, day, afternoon, sleep time, whatever they're doing. Stay safe, make good choices, and we'll see you next time. Oh, totally forgot. I have a current list of ideas for videos, so this is things that I'm going to be doing here in the future. Figured out that if I actually make a note on what to do, I think it'll definitely help me to stay focused on that. So we'll be looking forward to some of those topics here in the very non-distant future, as I know I have to record some of them while certain events are active, so I can kind of go more into depth on how to actually utilize what I'm trying to communicate. So there we go. That would be everything, I think. So yeah, there we go. That's it. I already said my goodbyes. We're gonna shut this puppy down. So we'll talk at all of you soon. Thanks very much for watching. Also, there was one other thing real quick, so I keep forgetting. This would be my ID online app. I'll actually show it here. It's born.assassin. Very easy, very, very easy to communicate with on here. So this would be probably the best way to communicate with me. Pictures and videos can be sent online app, which is what it's called. So that's the ID on there. Otherwise, you can leave comments, like, share, subscribe, whatever you feel like doing here on the YouTube channel. I'm not here to make money. I'm just here to help people out. So by all means, give me nothing but thumbs down, and just if you found something useful in here, tell your friends to watch it and have them give me a thumbs down too. I'm not going to have any hurt feelings by that at all. I just want to make sure that people are getting the information I'm trying to put out there. So, there we go for the third time now. Here we go. You guys all have a wonderful time. Stay safe. Make good choices. Talk at you later.